Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Welcome back to Hang with Mangg. And today,
the Horde is preparing to launch an assault against the mainland of Lordaeron.
Today we're playing Warcraft 2. Because I went and saw the Warcraft movie. So, you know, just got me nostalgic. Got me thinking about Warcraft. Someday there may be a Exploring the Warcraft Universe series, which could be pretty interesting. Maybe if they announce Warcraft 4 ever, then that might be the proper time. Anyways, the channel is up and running this week. We started some stuff again. We started Wind Waker HD, which is so far pretty solid. So far better than Majora's Mask. But that is not saying a whole lot. I have like 3 episodes or something queued up, ready to go for that game. So that will continue. We also have Mangg Soul's Big Bow Edition, which I have an episode or 2 of that ready to go. So I've been recording ahead because I wanted to get back in the swing of things. We did my top 10 movies that deserve a sequel or remake. And sometime then in July, we'll be doing my top 10 games that deserve a sequel or remake. So that is all good. We didn't do role manging because, like I said, Zig is on vacation, but hopefully there should be role manging this coming week. Hopefully. It's been a long time. And then I did Mangg Plays VR Battle Dome because it's, you know, Battle Dome is all the rage. I was going to upload Mangg Souls last night, but I actually forgot. I actually forgot to render it. I have like just a bunch of videos sitting there ready to just be rendered, which is very easy. I don't edit or anything. I just throw it in there, hit render, and walk away. But for some reason, I only render right before I upload, and so, you know, things happen. Yeah. So there'll be more of the same next week. However, I think that game Inside comes out. From the makers of Limbo. That was announced at E3. I think that comes out this week. And I will be Let's Playing that. I know nothing about it. I have no idea how it plays. But supposedly it's very good. So we'll be giving that a playthrough. I was going to do Mirror's Edge Catalyst. But I heard A, it wasn't that good. And B, between Mangg Souls, Wind Waker, and Inside, which I would rather play, there's just no room. So, sorry, Mirror's Edge. Yeah. What else? Oh, I did Exploring the Cthulhu Mythos, The Great Race of Yith. That video has technically been uploaded, although it's unlisted. So right now, only the couple Patreon backers can see it. But that will go live on the other channel tomorrow. Not my favorite of the Cthulhu Mythos videos. I like the Great Race of Yith, but I don't know. Like, I either have to say a bunch of stuff, which isn't that much stuff, that like isn't that hard to find, or is kind of not obvious, but I guess it's just kind of basic stuff. I either have to do that, or I have to like go and actually read a bunch of books about Yithians, which there aren't that many. But like I'd have to go read a story that briefly mentions the Yithians just so I can say it. And it's like, that's probably not a good idea. Maybe at some point down the line, if I have like 500,000 subscribers and this is like my full-time job, yeah, I'd probably take the time to read stories about just a single subject. But for right now, I think probably the basics are fine, because I do tend to just stick to Lovecraft himself. And Lovecraft only wrote one book about the Yithians, so there you go. But, yeah, so then in a couple weeks we'll be doing the creature roundup, I guess. I don't know if that's going to be the final title, but I'll be talking about Migos and Biakis and Chthonians and all sorts of stuff like that. Then after that, I think, is Cthulhu Mythos in film, which I guess is kind of an oddball in the lore series, since it isn't lore at all. But I think it will interest people to see where the Cthulhu Mythos has been touched upon and how lacking the Cthulhu Mythos is across cinema. Where really, like, the best Cthulhu Mythos movies have been kind of amateur-made black and white productions. Then is probably Cthulhu Mythos in Bloodborne, which is probably the most niche video, except I guess I can dip into the Bloodborne community, which could work. That's probably going to be the most difficult video, because that is like all my thoughts. So I have to actually think about, you know, all these different aspects of Bloodborne and actually write like a mini essay about how I think it touches on the Cthulhu Mythos. Should be a fun one, though. That'll probably be a much longer video than 5 minutes. And then I think we're on to the Q&A, the live Q&A, which hopefully should get a good turnout. If that has a crappy turnout, it's going to be a big disappointment. So I'm hoping a bunch of people show up. I mean, it'll be for like an hour on a Monday evening, so hopefully we can get a decent turnout. Get some good questions in there. Touch upon a bunch of stuff that I couldn't fit into a regular video. And then hopefully in the future, I'll just finish like every lore series with a live Q&A. And then after that, I think we're on to exploring Middle-earth. I know a bunch of people would want me to just do Cthulhu Mythos for a long time, but I think it's best if I branch out and cover a lot of different subjects. Yep. Okay. So, on Monday, we had 6 people for game night. We actually would have had 7, but Studs is apparently so against party games that he said if we went into party game territory, he would just sit it out. I don't know if he's actually against party games or if he just wanted to play Overwatch or what, but I don't know. It was kind of strange. And so we had 6, but we still did party games. Ish. Just because with some people that don't have a great amount of time, 6 people, it's just easier, I guess, to do party games. So we started with Concept, which I also played on vacation, which is why I brought it. And I think everybody enjoyed that a decent amount. It's a fun little game. Oh, you gotta... I mean, we don't really keep score or anything for Concept. It's just pass it around, play the game, have some laughs, keep going. Like all good party games. I think people enjoyed it. Then we played a round of 7 Wonders. I was a little nervous about that because we had one person who had never played before. But I mean, one person that hasn't played before, you might as well have 4 people that haven't played before. It's more or less the same thing. And so I was nervous because I remember teaching this to my family and it taking like, we played like 4 games of it over like 2 weeks. And they just never really grasp it. There was just so many questions because the iconography just boiled their brains for some reason. So I was like, I don't know. I mean, I brought it because I like it and I want to play it, but I was nervous. But the one guy who hadn't played picked it up real quickly. He did the absolute worst among us all, but that's to be expected. He didn't ask many questions, and that's what I care about. Like, I don't care if you do real shitty. Just don't ask questions. So, it was good. Although it continues to be proven that whoever piles on as much science as possible wins. Science is a little overpowered with the base game. Maybe some expansions work on that, but... yeah. It was alright. And then we played Geek Out again. I like Geek Out, because I like trivia games. I am a trivial man. So I like my trivia. And this time it was me, Ziggy, and Mert. And so, you know, I give Mert a lot of shit. You guys probably are aware of this. Maybe not. I give Mert a lot of shit for being kind of an oaf. A bit of an imbecile, perhaps. Sort of a gluttonous monster, occasionally, I accuse him of. But I will say he is a bit of a comic book savant. The man knows his comic books, and I respect that. So, you know, between his comic book knowledge and my sort of general trivia knowledge, and we had Ziggy, who, you know, knows a lot of fantasy stuff, at least in regards to, like, Lord of the Rings and things. Yeah, we dominated. We beat them 5-1. It was a beatdown. Because we kept on getting comic book stuff. I have to give a lot of credit to Mert for that victory. There was just... we just continued to get comic book questions, and the other team just had no real comic book knowledge. And so it was just no contest. Which is the best kind of contest. I mean, you get the card, and then you roll a colored die to see which trivia question you're going to be doing. So sometimes I would prefer to pick. Because one time we got some comic book nonsense, and I wanted the one that was named like 2 characters from Battlestar Galactica. And I wanted to just name all the characters from Battlestar Galactica. But the dice was not in my favor. We ended up winning the card anyways, but... Bummer. Still a solid game, and the game comes with like 500 cards or some it's ridiculous how many cards are in that game. So, a lot of replayability. It's a bit niche, because you can only really play it with people that are somewhat nerdy. And I would say a couple people in our group are just not nerdy enough. But I guess me, Ziggy, and Mert can never be on a team altogether. That's unfair. And I think Mert and I pretty much always have to be on different teams. His comic book advantage is strong. I realize I'm tooting my own horn a bit. But it was a beatdown.
Arg? I would love to.
Yeah. So that was good. And then we finished off with some cockroach poker, which is proving to be a pretty big hit with our current group.
Son.
Mainly due to Ziggy. Ziggy apparently never played cockroach poker before. And now that he has discovered it, is just
What do you want me to?
God's gift to tabletop gaming. It's good. I like cockroach poker. I like it better than Skull. Yeah. That's pretty much that. I got Gen Con in like 5 weeks. 5 weeks, that's good. There will probably be some video footage from Gen Con that I'll upload here of me cruising around. Maybe me meeting Tom Vassell. Apparently Ren at the UK Gaming Expo got to play Cosmic Encounter with Tom Vassell. I don't know how you win that lottery. I don't know how you enter. I don't know what it's involved in there. But that would be pretty cool. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, that would be pretty cool. Okay, so Warcraft. I mean, I'm a fan of Warcraft. Warcraft 2 here is... I guess I would say it's my favorite RTS. I mean, I'm not a big fan of RTS, so it's not a great statement. But I'd say it's my favorite of the ones that I've played. There's nostalgia. There's plenty of nostalgia here, because I remember as a kid watching my brother play Warcraft 2, me playing Warcraft 2. I just love... I love all the building designs. I remember as a kid just loving all the building designs. Because, like the Great Hall here, you know, it looks okay. It looks fine. But then on a wintry map, it gets all, like, Christmassy and shit. And it's just, I loved it. I loved it a lot. It's great. Just everything. All the designs are just awesome. All the voice acting and, I don't know. It's just, there's a lot of nostalgia in this game. And then, of course, I did play Warcraft 3, but not a tremendous fan of Warcraft 3. It's fine, but graphically, I much prefer Warcraft 2. I mean, Warcraft 3 has those just kind of odd polygonal character models and things like that, whereas Warcraft 2 is just like, it's art. It's art, man. I don't care what you say. But I put a bit of time into it, you know, mostly in kind of custom maps and things like that. And then, of course, World of Warcraft I played for a number of years. I'm probably going to pick up Legion and play it again a bit, just for the hell of it. So I'm a fan of the Warcraft series. I'm a fan of the lore. I'm not like a scholar. Once I do exploring the Warcraft universe, or exploring Warcraft, or whatever I call it. You know, once I do that, and I really start going through the whole thing, then I'll probably be a bit more of a scholar. So going into the Warcraft movie was a very odd experience.
You're the captain.
Because it's not often. It's not often that I watch a movie based on something that I am very familiar with, or somewhat familiar with. You know, there's comic book movies, but I'm not that familiar with comic books. There are other video game movies, but none that I have seen have such kind of the storied history that Warcraft has.
Yes, Captain.
So it's just an odd experience. And that combined with the half CGI, half realistic, and, you know, Blizzard's history of doing, in recent years, doing some incredible cinematics in their games. It was just kind of a weird experience. That's the best way I can describe it. Because it was kind of like watching cinematics for Warcraft 4, but it never switched to gameplay. It just kept going with cinematics. And, you know, Blizzard cinematics are best in kind of these short bursts that are like, yeah, that's awesome. And like, oh, we're playing, and then, oh, yeah, these awesome cinematics, you know, having 2 hours of just, okay, you know, cinematic. It was odd. But the actual movie, the plot is not... I think plenty of people will think it's based on the first Warcraft game. Plenty of people think it's based on World of Warcraft, which is not the case at all. Plenty of people think it's based on Warcraft, Orcs, and Humans. It's really, really not. It's based on the first war, which did occur in the first Warcraft game, but has been kind of retconned so much that playing the first Warcraft game doesn't really provide you with any insight.
Work complete.
So the basic plot of Warcraft is there's a bunch of humans that live on a planet called Azeroth, in a country called Azeroth, in a kingdom called Azeroth, I guess. They are led by King Lane, who lives in Stormwind. They live a good, peaceful life. And then some orcs show up and fuck everything up. And in the first game, the orcs are led by Blackhand, who is in the movie, but not really...
Ready to work.
I guess he is kind of the leader, but Gul'dan is just so prominent that it doesn't really seem that way. And in the game, they just kind of show up with no explanation. In the movie, of course, there's a dark portal, which is the official, you know, lore, as was retcon. And the orcs just like to pillage shit. They come from Draenor. Although, I actually don't know. I actually don't know the official lore on this. If they actually originally came from Draenor, or they came there from somewhere else. I have no idea. Because I know Draenor is where the Draenei are from, which make a lot of sense. And in the Draenei are actually in the movie for like 10 seconds. They're just kept in cages because the orcs have already taken over the Draenei population and imprisoned them. Anyways, so they come to Azeroth and they start kicking ass. And I will say the orcs, well, the action scenes are the best part of the movie. I mean, I don't think anybody expects otherwise. And seeing orcs on screen like that, just like badass CG orcs, is really cool. I mean, say what you will about CGI. You know, there are just some things that are not really possible with physical effects. And having like these huge 7 feet tall hulking orcs doing just ridiculously monstrous shit is just awesome in CG. You know, they're like this orc picks up a horse and throws it. You know, I don't know how I mean, I guess you can do that with practical effects, but I don't know. I don't know. In CG, it looked badass, personally. So, yeah, they start stomping some shit in. And on the human side, you know, they have the king, King Lane. And his kind of chief advisor slash Kingsguard slash commander is Anduin Lothar, who in the games, at least as far as I recall, has always been portrayed as this very kind of stoic, stalwart champion. You know, like everything that a commander of the military should be, and like the best swordsman and things like that. In the movie, he's got a bit too much sense of humor. Like, he seems like kind of a wisecracker. And I guess that's kind of meant to show his evolution, because it's kind of somewhat young Anduin Lothar. So he's kind of wisecracking. But then after his king dies, and he kind of actually leads this whole army against this monstrous force, he starts to buckle down a bit. I guess I can see that. You also have Medivh. Now, Medivh in the original Warcraft game, I don't know how many people know this, but in the original Warcraft game, Medivh was just mentioned as an evil warlock. He's just an evil warlock that can summon demons and shit. That's it. Later on, they did some heavy work on his character, and he becomes the guardian of Trisfal and things like that. The guardian of Azeroth. And so in the movie, he's played by Ben Foster, who is an actor I like. And so he lives in Khazregard with his steward, Modius, I believe is his name. And he just kind of does odd wizard stuff. And then you have Khadgar. And in the official lore, Khadgar is a student of the Kirin Tor, who's kind of a school of wizardry. You know, they did Dalaran and all that kind of stuff. And so in the official lore, he is sent to Medivh to, like, apprentice under him. He's officially sent there. In the movie, for some reason, they changed this so that he actually leaves the Kirin Tor of his own choice, because he's like, I don't like it. It's stupid. It's stupid shit. And he goes to Medivh because he kind of, like, partners up with Anduin, and Anduin is sent to Medivh because Medivh is the guardian, and, you know, Azeroth needs him. So it's a much more roundabout way. I don't know why you didn't just have Khadgar there just being an apprentice of Medivh, but I guess it worked out. So anyways, so Gul'dan is not mentioned at all in the original game, I believe. That was later on. And Gul'dan is a warlock, part of the Shadow Council for the Horde. And he discovers You know, he can control, I guess, the Fel, which is this kind of dark magic stuff. And so basically, in the official lore, Sargeras, this Dreadlord, basically takes over Medivh and forces him to open up the dark portal between Draenor and Azeroth, and so that is how the orcs go through. And so, the humans discover this way too late, and then they finally do kill Medivh, although in the lore, it's Anduin that kills Medivh. In the movie, fucking Khadgar just drops a golem on his head, and it's really lame. And in the lore, part of this curse that Medivh casts on Khadgar before he dies is Khadgar gets aged many years. In the movie, that doesn't happen. And Gul'dan's just a real dick in the movie. Real dick. You have Durotan, who is not in the original game. He wasn't added till like after Warcraft 2. They're like, oh, we should have this guy, and then, oh, Thrall, that's cool. So Durotan's kind of the main part of the orc side of the movie, because he's actually like a good orc. In the original game, the orcs were not good. Like, at all, the orcs were not good. They were very clearly evil. It wasn't until later, until they were like, well, if we want this to go places, we should probably do something about this. So they made orcs a little bit more sympathetic. A little bit. What else? You have Garona, who is mentioned in the original game. She's just a half-orc assassin. It wasn't until, again, later that they were like, well, let's make her character a bit more complex. More than just an assassin. So in the official lore, she gets kind of corrupted by the Fel and forced to kill King Lane. She is forced to. She doesn't want to. She like cries while she kills him. Like she doesn't want to. In the movie, she also doesn't want to, but she's not forced to. Basically, this is a spoiler, but I don't even care because I'm going to tell you. King Lane is like, they're all surrounded by orcs. It's this big battle, and King Lane is like, look, we're all going to die. We're done. So why don't you just stab me in the back, and you can be a hero. And then you can unite the Horde and the Alliance and make peace. Even though that makes no sense, because you're dumb and you're going to leave your dagger that very much is your dagger, and you're going to leave it out the back of my neck so everybody will know that you betrayed the Alliance and killed me, and they'll never trust you ever again. So that's great, you dumb bitch. And then she stabs him. And at the end of the movie, it's very poignant that it doesn't seem like Anduin Lothar is going to trust Garona at all, ever again. Because she just murdered, his king. I know I'm only talking about the lore, but to me that's the most important. And so at the end of... Well, okay, in the official lore, at the end of the First War, the humans lose. The humans lose the First War. And they retreat to Lordaeron, which is where we get introduced to Tyrannus Menethil, and then the Second War occurs, which is what you're seeing right now. This is part of the Second War, because they had to develop ships to cross the sea to get to Lordaeron. In the movie, they don't lose. The humans don't lose. They don't win either. It just ends with like, oh, we'll fight back against this evil horde. Now that our king is dead, I guess I'm in charge. Even though I'm not the king, because Varian is the king. But I'll lead you into battle. And we'll kill those horde. And the orcs are like, no, we'll win. Because we're the horde. And then the movie ends. And it's like, wow, that's a great ending to a film. With no resolution whatsoever. Like, this movie is banking on a sequel so hard. You can feel it. So that's a bummer. So that is why I put it partly on my list of movies that deserve a sequel. Because I think it really does. It needs one. I think it could be good. But it's just so egregious that that's how it ends. With no resolution to anything. The king dies. And it's just... It's like if Fellowship of the Ring... It's like if Fellowship of the Ring ended... And there were no other Lord of the Rings movies. That's kind of what it's like. It's just... Oh, there's Fellowship of the Ring. You ever see it? Oh, yeah, it kind of had a weird ending. Nothing freaking happened. That's kind of what Warcraft ends like. Which would be fine if we knew there were going to be Warcraft sequels, but we don't know that. Well, that was a long discussion about the lore of Warcraft. Was it actually a good movie, though?
We're being attacked.
It's so... It's very difficult for me to answer that question. 'Cause, see, look at this. It's kind of Christmassy-ish. Like, I don't know what that green thing hanging there is. There are other buildings that are more Christmassy. I like the snow. It's a good touch. It's a very difficult question for me to answer. It wasn't bad. I'll say that it wasn't bad. There were... But, you know, the fact that it was so odd, it makes it hard for me to judge. There were aspects of it that are very just... can be traditionally judged. The writing was not spectacular. The acting at times was very cheesy. Some of the dialogue was just ridiculously corny. The pacing was odd. It was a very ambitious movie. I'll say that. It was perhaps too ambitious. Partly, again, to the fact that the story does not really resolve in a satisfactory manner. But it can't, right? It can't. I mean, I don't know how you'd write a Warcraft movie that didn't end on some form of cliffhanger. Because even if the orcs had won that war, and they had very clearly trounced the humans, forcing the humans to retreat north, you'd still be wondering, like, oh, okay, so what's going to happen to the humans now? Like, you'd have to slaughter all the humans, and very clearly just, oh, the orcs win, they take over Azeroth. But that's not how the story of Warcraft goes. You'd be changing way too much. So, there's no way for them to end it without it being on a cliffhanger. But now it's like, okay, so if you do another movie, is half the movie going to be the humans losing the first war? Like, is this first half of the second movie the end of the first war? Or are you just changing way too much, and the whole second movie is still the first war? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But it's ambitious. You have Medivh, you have Khadgar, you have Garona, you have Durotan, and you have Blackhand and Gul'dan, and you have all these different characters that, to me, it's just like, oh yeah, you know, I know about Durotan, I know about Orgrim Doomhammer, and I know about Anduin Lothar. I'm not even sure if they ever call him Anduin throughout the whole movie. I actually have no idea if they refer to him as Anduin. He continually just gets called Lothar, to where I would imagine most people seeing that movie think that his name is just Lothar. And that was kind of a continuous thought, was like, if I didn't know much about the Warcraft lore, I wouldn't know what to think. You know, it's not like Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings did a fantastic job of introducing anybody that was unfamiliar with, you know, the lore to Lord of the Rings. You know, it was slow, it was gradual, but everything that you really needed to know, you knew. You know, they explained it in a decent, entertaining manner. Warcraft, I'm not sure I can say the same. The CG, I thought the CG was good. Some people just abhor CG in any manner of any type. They're always like, oh, it didn't look good, it didn't look real. It's like, well, okay. How do you know what a real orc looks like? How do you know? I don't, just whatever. You know, they have the real orcs in Lord of the Rings, which are fine, but I like the look of the orcs in Warcraft. I think they look monstrous. They look freaking bad. Look at this dude. This looks monstrous. That's what I want to see, and that's what I saw. So the CG was good. The action, a lot of the time, was really good. Some of the fight scenes between orcs and humans, like were really not like visceral, gory, or anything like that, but you could like feel a lot of this just intensity. It was good. I liked it. But, you know, there weren't that many action scenes, and there was a lot of... You know, they originally pondered just doing the story of Warcraft 1. Just plain, straight up, the story of Warcraft 1 as a movie. But they dismissed it because they felt it was too close to Lord of the Rings. And I think what they mean by that is, like I said, the story of Warcraft 1 is humans good, orcs bad. Which is kind of Lord of the Rings-esque. You know, the orcs are pretty much unilaterally bad in Lord of the Rings. There's no, as far as I know, there's no, like, good orc that is sympathetic. Like, they're all pretty evil. So I guess in that sense, alright. Maybe you're right. But then I feel like they went too far in the other direction. And it's just like, there's so much going on, and, you know, Sargeras, and they don't ever mention him, but at one point Medivh does turn into a Dreadlord. So it's just like, you know, what are people supposed to think? What are you doing? I don't know. So I don't know if I can recommend it. If you don't know anything about Warcraft, although I guess if you've been listening to this, you know enough to see the movie. Although I guess I spoil a lot for you. But in general, I think if somebody doesn't know much about Warcraft, I don't know what they'd really get out of it. I guess if you're a huge fantasy buff, but you don't know anything about Warcraft, then maybe, okay, you can see Warcraft. If you are a big fan of Warcraft, I think you'll probably like it. Again, it might be a weird experience for you like it was for me, to just kind of see this all unfolding on a screen. But I guess that's part of the appeal, is to see it. I mean, it was cool. It was cool to see these orcs on screen. It was cool to see Anduin Lothar on screen. You know, it was cool to see Gul'dan on screen. The Dark Portal on screen. It was cool to see all that. Yeah, so I don't know if I can really give it like a regular review. It was just odd. It was an odd thing sitting there. I didn't dislike it, at the very least. I didn't dislike it. But I don't know if I loved it either. I might have to rewatch it at some point. Give it a second thought. But maybe it came too late. You know, maybe Warcraft is no longer really that huge. It is, as of now, the highest grossing video game movie of all time. But that is largely due to China. You know, Lionsgate is a China-owned company. It was huge in China. That's where they're making their money. But domestically, that movie was a flop. If it did not have China involved in it, this movie would be one of the biggest flops around. I think it made... I can't really check. But last I checked, it made like $35 million domestically, which is a huge flop. And so I think that is the most telling thing, that America does not care about a Warcraft movie. At all. You know, World of Warcraft is kind of waning in appeal. It is not what it... If they had released this movie 7, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, okay, it probably would have been a much bigger deal. World of Warcraft isn't that big. It's been a long time since Warcraft 3. And I guess America is just not interested in some fantasy action movie starring humans and orcs. Which is, at the end of the day, pretty much what it is. There are dwarves in the movies. There is dwarves in the movie. There's elves in the movies. That's about it, though. There's no Taurens. There's no night elves. There's no gnomes. There's no goblins. There's no undead. There's no pandas. Like, you put Draenei in the movie, but you don't put in pandas? Come on. Yeah, so interesting that America just does not care. Yeah, it was alright. I'd watch it again, I guess. Yeah. I hope to see a sequel. Like I said, it's one of those movies where it's odd because I didn't love it, but I want to see more of it. So I hope there is a sequel. I am hoping. I mean, I doubt they're gonna jump to... At the end of the movie, you see Thrall, although they called him Goel, which I guess... I don't think that is any form of canon, but it doesn't matter because Thrall doesn't know that his name was Goel, as named by his parents. Like, nobody knew that name except Durotan and his wife, and they're both dead, so it doesn't matter. But, okay, let's call him Goel. He becomes Thrall, and at the end of the movie, he gets kind of picked up by some human. Who, you know, we... in the lore know to be like the captain of Durnhold Keep or whatever like that, and he becomes kind of a gladiator until he breaks free. So maybe the second movie, if it makes it, and I personally, if I were a betting man, I would bet it's not. But if they did, perhaps they'll just jump straight to Thrall being kind of somewhat adultish, breaking free from Durnhold Keep, and organizing the Horde. Maybe they'll just end the first war. Like, it'll just be done by the time the second movie starts. They'll just be talking, be like, well, we lost the first war, but we'll win the second one, and they'll be in Lordaeron, and the Horde will be coming over the seas and shit like that. It'll be like the second game, you know. And then maybe... But no, they would have to pass a lot of time for Thrall to be suddenly an adult. And which would kind of mean they'd probably have to recast Lothar and recast Khadgar. But then you could get Varian as an adult, which would be cool. And then, of course, you can bring in all sorts of other characters that a lot of people like. Maybe that's what they'll do. That's probably their best bet if they want to salvage it, is bring in Arthas. I think that's what a lot of people want to see, is just bring in Arthas. Let's see all that. That'll be great. Anyways, that's about that. Yeah, that's about it, I guess. So, check over on the other channel tomorrow for the Great Race of Yith. There'll be more Wind Waker, more Mangg Souls. We're going to start playing Inside as soon as that comes out. And hopefully roll Mangg on Thursday. And that is about that. I hope you enjoyed an early primer on exploring Warcraft. But alright. My name is Mangg. This has been Hanging with Mangg. And I'll see you fine folks next week.